Hello, we are Meeting in the Middle. I'm Nicole Roth.
And I'm Hannah Mosher. Welcome back to our channel. We are in week 4 of our series that we're doing called Door Walkers. So this is the final week.
I know, it's crazy. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey as we just really dove into what it means to take these opportunities that the Lord is giving us and what it means when there aren't opportunities that we're really wanting opening up for us. And so thank you for joining us as we just really studied that.
And we've talked about a lot of hard subjects over the last 3 weeks. So this week is like the rest and relaxation part of our message.
Yeah. We don't really necessarily have like a focus verse like we have the last 3 weeks. We're going to hit a couple verses throughout our talk today. But before we get into that, we want to remind you to like and subscribe to our channel and click the notifications bell so that you're always notified when a new episode is up.
So as I mentioned before, the last 3 weeks have actually been really difficult topics. The first week was prayer, and even though that's not like a tough topic, it can be a tough discipline, a spiritual discipline to hit. And so in summary of week 1, prayer should be our first and constant step when it comes to taking these leaps of faith, or as we're calling it, door walking.
And the next step is how to persevere as we're going through that door that we're walking through, or that opportunity that is being presented to us. And what we've kind of talked about is perseverance is the challenges that the world kind of creates.
Yeah, they're the persecution that we'll face as Christians, and the thorns and bushes that we have to walk through in order to get to that final step.
Yes, and that final step, we're not there yet, I guess. The next step is persistence, and you can talk about that a little bit.
Can I?
Yeah, sorry.
Am I allowed?
Yeah.
So week 3, last week, we talked about persistence, which we kind of established is more the challenges that God creates as opposed to perseverance, where it's the challenges that the world creates. So, we have prayer, coding, all of our decisions. Perseverance, we're taking those steps. And then persistence is like, when God kind of creates a little bit of discipline, the challenges when we're walking through.
Where we have to trust in Him and fully rely in what He's doing in our life is the right thing.
And that's where the faith, big leaps of faith starts. Faith.
This week, as we're talking about peace, when I reflect on the Advent season for Christmas, most churches and pastors do sermons on the topic of peace. And my pastor did Chip do one of these? Yeah. And so what I kind of gathered from what our head pastor at our church was talking about, he just did a quick rundown and said that there was approximately 800 verses that just say the word peace in it. However, that can be taken in various different contexts. And so today, what Hannah and I want to do is we want to close our first message series by talking about peace and how it can set us free from all that we experience walking through that door that God opened for us throughout this series.
Yeah, and we talked last week about how submission has a really negative undertone to it these days, but when you fully submit to God, there is no greater peace than just letting go and letting God, as we've basically said every week at this point.
Exactly.
And along with that, making all of these decisions, these leaps of faith, and these door walking opportunities kingdom-based, because that's where the ultimate peace is going to lie.
Yes. And we have been saying that as a Christian, you're going to experience tension and persecution, but how do we find peace in that? And that is what we're going to talk about today, is how we can focus on the Lord to find peace in that persecution and tension.
So the big idea, or the sticky statement for this week, as we Baptists love to call it, again, we're not Baptists, it's just fun to say, we're calling it Jesus Take the Wheel. And like as cliche as it's been, Carrie Underwood, love that woman. She sings that whole song about it. It is such a real concept that I think that we actually need to just take another second and think no, but really, please take over this situation.
Yes.
I do it every day with my kids. Please take over the situation. I lose my car keys. Please take over this situation. I mean, really, literally, it applies to absolutely every piece of my life.
Oh, Jesus, take the wheel.
So our end goal here is to talk about what peace looks like, when we should look for and experience peace, why we should desire peace, and how we can actually obtain peace, and most importantly, keep it.
So when we're looking at the word peace,
which is mentioned 800 times.
Approximately. So it's like 790.
Approximately.
Yes.
Fact check for the day.
Yeah. Jason, where's your source on that? We'll talk later. So when we look at the word peace, we want to look at the Greek word for peace, which is Irene. Hannah, you can put it right here.
Irene.
Yeah.
Irene.
Which means one, quietness and rest. However, this word also comes from the root word in Greek, iro. Hannah, right here. Which also means to join or tie together into a whole.
And I loved that. Like it brings a whole of oneness.
Exactly. So the feeling of peace is a wholesome feeling of quiet and rest. It is not chaotic.
Which steps 1, 2, and 3 can be extremely chaotic. Finding time to pray, definitely chaotic as a mom. Even a pastor's wife, that can be chaotic.
Yeah.
Persevering, absolutely chaotic. It's the world just throwing tomatoes at you.
Yes.
And then persistence with God. If you don't think God's chaotic sometimes or allows chaos, give me strength.
Yes.
Seriously.
Yes. So one of the verses that we're going to touch on today, and we'll touch on it again later on in our conversation, is Colossians 3:15 through 17. Starting at verse 15, it says, "Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, since as members of one body you are called to peace, and be thankful.
Let the message of Christ dwell among you richly as you teach and admonish one another with all wisdom through psalms, hymns, and songs from the Spirit, singing to God with gratitude in your hearts. And whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to the Father through him." And that last verse, just, it ties in completely that seeking the kingdom of God first is what ultimately will bring you peace in the end.
Exactly. And what's the best way to seek the kingdom of God? Opening up the word and praying.
And persevering.
And persisting.
4 P's, baby. The
Yes.
4 P's.
So diving further into peace, we're going to be visiting the last part of our main Bible passage from last week, which was from Hebrews 12, verse 11, which says, "Peaceful harvest of right living." So when we talked about prayer, perseverance, and persistence, that whole section was hard. You're dealing with a lot of struggle. You're dealing with how you deal with the struggles of the world and from the spiritual standpoint. So when it's talking about peace here, it's talking about that it is right living. It is kingdom based. It is not wrong. It is full of righteousness, which is full of integrity and virtue.
And when we say seeking the kingdom first, and that's where all the peace starts, in that passage it says seek the kingdom and righteousness.
Right.
So that's, if you're seeking those two things, that means, believing and the actions behind it, you're setting yourself up for success.
Exactly. And when we wanted to further look into what it means into trusting the Lord, Hannah found a really great passage from Proverbs.
So Proverbs, just a little bit of context, it was written by a man named Solomon, and I love his story because he is like my spirit animal in the Bible. He and God were like chatting it up or whatever, and God was like, "Hey, you can have something, you can have anything, you can have kingdoms, you could have wealth, you could have anything you want." And Solomon said, "I want wisdom."
So cool.
So, I love that. And I pray every single day for more faith and more wisdom. And it's not like a magic potion. Right. He gives us the challenges to get to those points, just like he does for peace. But that's just something just to kind of chew on a little bit and think about, wonder what I'm praying for. Because those two things are pretty much going to cover any other situation that you face in this planet.
Gosh, having a lot of wisdom, though, is also kind of scary.
It's so scary.
Because sometimes just...
You're the go-to guy.
Yeah. Or, not knowing is just... easier.
That's extremely frustrating to not know.
Yeah.
And not knowing. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I was actually saying, sometimes just not knowing.
The ignorance is bliss kind of thing. Yeah.
So it's that's also scary, asking the Lord, just give me all the wisdom, because then that's also saying the world isn't going to like what I have to say.
I've just accepted that at this point.
Yes. Sorry. No. Going back to Proverbs.
So Proverbs 3:5-6, I thought really hit home for the peace thing for me. That's really the verses that spoke to me. "Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. Seek his will in all you do, and he will show you which path to take."
Right.
So that, the verse 5, I think I had to memorize in elementary school. It's kind of a cliche verse, trust in the Lord with all your heart. and then like you don't really understand the next part. It's like depend on your own understanding, like what? And then seek his will, you don't even read that necessarily, like when you're doing all these Bible verse studies and everything. So I wanted to kind of break it down. And first I wanted to concentrate on the word trust in the Lord. So trust, the Greek definition is to be bold, confident, and to be safe, to feel safe and careless. Now, careless has that negative undertone as well. Like, oh, I'm careless, I'm naive, YOLO, you know, that whole thing. But it's not. It's submitting yourself so much so that you have no other cares or worries. It's just, it's all on God. And I absolutely loved that. I have held so tightly to a Jars of Clay song called Faith Like a Child. And it's just the coolest way to think about it. Like when you're a kid, if you've been blessed enough to be a Christian since you were that age, or even when you were a new Christian, maybe in your 20s or 30s, you have this almost like naivety, like this, you're lifted off the ground, this like floating feeling.
Like a honeymoon stage.
It is, like a honeymoon stage. And I have just clung. That doesn't sound right. Woo. Clung to that as I've gone into my adult years, and because things do become more real, and it's scary. It's really scary.
Yeah.
So to really trust is just to give your everything.
Any care.
Without care.
Yeah. And that's so hard in this world, and I've gone through struggles where like I do care of how I trust in the Lord, and like almost like cherry picking from like, okay, I'll trust you here, but not here, Lord, because I really don't know if this is going to happen or not. And that's not okay.
No, it's not. And it's hard too. Like I always like to use this example, like, you know, when you're a baby and you go to the doctor, they're the greatest person on the face of the planet until they give you your shot. And all of a sudden you have complete distrust and it just completely taints your entire view on your doctor. And so it's kind of the same thing here. Like as we're kids or new Christians, like you're like going through this honeymoon phase, and then some trial hits you and then you're like, oh, this isn't all unicorns and butterflies. I think I've said that 3 weeks in a row now. So it's totally understandable not fully being able to trust. I'm pretty sure God knows that. We are human, which is why he spoke through Solomon with this, saying to trust. And it's really interesting too, I didn't put this in here, that Proverbs 3 is just a bunch of commandments. Not like wisdom suggestions, like they're actual commandments. So trusting in God is a commandment. And again, commandment, negative undertone, but it's not. It's this fully submissive, like that's a beautiful thing.
Like we're being taken care of.
Exactly.
Like we don't have, like we can literally just be like, oh, you said that, Father? Okay, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
Like you got it taken care of? Okay, I'm just going to do that.
Exactly. Like telling my kid, stop climbing on the table. Just trust me, man. You're going to fall off.
Exactly. Exactly. And we have to do it with our whole heart. And the Greek interpretation for that is inner man, inner will, soul, and determination. That's deep.
That's every fiber of your being.
That's so deep. And so it's not just like that. Fill your heart with love. It's like deep into your soul with every, like you just said, every fiber of your being, not literally just your heart. Like your heart is what's keeping you alive for your whole entire body. It's the center of your whole life. And so like if you're doing this with your whole heart, you're doing it with your whole life.
So going into the next part of the verse, in all your ways acknowledge him. God is concerned and active in every part of our life. And acknowledge simply means to have a relationship with him every day. Acknowledge God every day. Talk to him every day.
Exactly. And how do we talk with him every day? By reading the Bible and praying.
Spiritual disciplines, baby.
So further into verse 6 of that verse from Proverbs, it's saying that seek his will in all you do, and he will show you which path to take. So that path it's a narrow path. It's straight, but it's narrow. And when you're on that narrow path, you cannot deviate from that path, or else you'll just fall off. You have to stay. Whoops, I have a hair stuck here, sorry. I don't know why I'm apologizing to you.
We're so sorry. On behalf of MITM, we are so sincerely sorry
that
about that.
Stuck on my, because it distracted me. Anyways, so you're on this path, but it's not big. So you have no room to move, which means you have to stay on it to follow the Lord. Like there's no room for comfort here. Like it's not meant to be comfortable. If you deviate from it, you will fall and you will falter. But the cool thing about the Lord is he forgives you and he will take you back onto that path. But you just need to stay on that narrow path.
And this whole series has been like, which path do I take? Which door do I walk through? Which opportunities do I grasp onto? And so for him to use that exact terminology, he will show you which path to take if you acknowledge him daily, if you trust in him with every fiber of your being. Mm-hmm. Those are like the 3 keys to success, basically, which I said we weren't going to give in the first episode, but we did. There you go. Proverbs 3:5-6. It's all you need.
Yes.
You can turn us off now. Don't. We need the watch minutes. But no, seriously. I mean, this verses spoke to me so because even though it's very constricting and it's very difficult, this is also the path of life, hope, light, and peace.
Exactly.
It all comes down to that. And if you can get through those really challenging times, whether it's from the world or God challenging you, if you can get through that, the peace you feel at the end, I mean, it's insane. We talked like last week with Hebrews 12. It says specific, like you are going to run a race. You are going to do this marathon. And it feels euphoric after you are done running a race. It's like, it's this beautiful reality. So even if you can't find like that real peace here and you're just constantly striving for it and you're not finding it, know there is an end in sight. It may be 1,000 years from now, but 100 years from now. I don't think we're living that long anymore. That's Old Testament studies. But you're going to have this peace, and it's all about the kingdom.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter which door you're taking, whether it's your New Year's resolution or moving across the country like you and Eric did, and your kids and the dogs.
And you.
Right. Oh, I guess I did that too. As long as it's kingdom based, and you can take that back out of Colossians 3:15-17. And when you're connecting all of this together, we're talking about having peace with yourself and having peace with God. And when I reflect back on the sermon that Pastor Jason did, if God is at peace with you, who are you to not have peace with yourself during this time? And so if you're having that trust and that safety and that carelessness feeling with the Lord and being emotionally present with him, that is seriously the biggest gift the Lord can give to you if you're accepting of it.
So you talked before when we were talking about this whole message that Pastor Jason had said there's 3 kinds of peace. There's having peace with God, having peace with yourself, and then there's having peace with others. And you have to kind of keep that in context because you need to understand that peace, when we say you're going to feel this peace, it's not like everything's perfect around you. In fact, by being on the straight and narrow, you're probably going to disrupt peace with others, but that's in the context of the world. They're not going to like what you see. They're going to give you pushback. Having peace with others, in my opinion, Dr. Todd Utley, he's my guy when it comes to commentary. Yeah. He said this quote, "If the message causes conflict, so be it, but not the messengers." So it's handling yourself with grace, with tact, when you're discussing these tough issues. And I will also say, and we'll get into this too, that we need to discuss these tough issues. Peace is not just sitting back and saying, oh, to each their own. I said this last week, or like, oh, sorry, I don't want to disrupt the peace.
Or hurt your feelings.
Sometimes we're called to disrupt the peace. Jesus certainly disrupted the peace, but he did so with the right heart and with the knowledge base and the wisdom.
So you're saying he did it kingdom-based?
I would say he did it kingdom-based, Nicole.
So with that being said, you would also say that Jesus wants us to have peace.
I would say that that's his goal for us.
So I'd ask Brandon, when he thinks of the Bible and the word peace, what does he think of? Go. And he said, well, it honestly just reminds me of the verse John 14:27, which is, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I don't give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled and do not be afraid." And Brandon said he literally, one of the last things he did in his life was saying, I'm giving you peace. And he's like, that's the first thing that I think of is Jesus wants us to have peace. He doesn't want us to live in tension, and we don't have to. We have the easiest access to the Lord because of the tension and the persecution that Jesus did for us so that we can have peace.
Yeah, Eric, when he was overhearing our speakerphone conversation about this message, he popped in and he was pretty passionate. I think it was Luke 4, where Jesus and the disciples, they set out to sea. Jesus fell asleep and the storm erupted. The waves are crashing. We think it's the Sea of Galilee. We're just not sure. Eric can comment, so just read the comments. I'm certain that he will put it in there. He'll probably correct everything that I'm saying. It's okay. healthy relationship. So
we're learning with you.
And with our husbands.
Yes.
And so we're trying also not to take our husband's styles and things.
Yeah.
And like, we just want to be our own.
Yeah, we're trying hard to like dive in and study and be in the Word. And that's why we're deviating right now, currently, because we just want to express to you that we are learning alongside you guys. Mm-hmm. We're not experts. I mean, I did go to a Bible college, but like I didn't. Yeah, and so like, but I didn't fully study ministry. I had to take a couple Bible classes, but like, this is very new to Hannah and I, and thank you for sticking with us.
Yeah.
Sorry,
a little plug. Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah, sorry.
A little pastor plug.
Yeah.
It's good. Pastor wife's plug. I got a pastor wife keychain.
Do you?
Yesterday.
That's so nice. I don't have anything that says pastor's wife. Brandon. I have a jacket that says coach's wife. Anyways, keep going.
Okay, so they were on the Sea of Galilee. The storm came out. The waves were crashing, whatever. And then Jesus was sleeping, and everyone's freaking out. And they're like, "Come on, man, save us!" And he's like, "I got you. Like,
Chill.
Stop freaking out." Like, and the cool thing that Eric was trying to tie in is that the disciples, they were being obedient. They set out to sea like they were supposed to, despite probably warning signs, I'm assuming, of a storm. They were fishermen. They probably knew all the signs.
Yeah.
And so they were being obedient, and they did get scared. And they did call to God for help, or Jesus for help. And he helped them. And he was like, "Just trust me, man. Like, I got you. I got you." And so that was really cool. And maybe Eric was trying to say something completely different. So you can also put that in the comments, sweetie. Everyone just jump there. And I'm sure you'll be blown away.
And it's Eric Mosher.
Eric Mosher.
Mosher. Mosher?
Mosher.
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 I've been saying Mosher.
It's literally spelled S-H. Like, shh.
Okay.
We answer to all of it. I've certainly answered to worse. So all that to say, the disciples were being obedient. They faced a tough challenge. They just did it anyway, and they trusted God with the action, even though they kind of didn't trust God because they freaked out a little bit.
One of them didn't, though.
What did you do, jump overboard? What are you talking about?
No, wasn't that when Jesus told Peter to come stand in the water with him?
I think it was separate because he was on the boat when he visited with Peter, or when he was walking on the water towards them. So it was two separate instances, or at least two separate verses.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we aren't the only ones who face tough times. I mean, obviously in that story I just said the disciples were facing tough times. They face challenges and they get scared and they call on God and he's there. And, we've talked so much about the struggles over the last several weeks. And we just want to reassure you with these passages, with our voices, that the hard work does pay off. Peace is the ultimate goal. And again, going back to the root Greek words, that's this unity, this oneness with Christ. And if you're just constantly chasing that, that's when you're going to achieve that peace, that spiritual peace, fruit of the Spirit.
Yes, exactly. And referring back to one of Jason's sermons again, he was saying that when you're either finding tension with God or you're desiring peace with God. And this is important here because when you're going through these doors that you don't know is going to open, or if you're going through doors that God is literally pushing you through, you have to you have to actively choose to desire peace with the Lord, because sometimes these doors aren't going to be peachy keen, and sometimes you're going to have those struggles like you were saying, but you have to actively choose to have peace with the Lord and desire to have peace with him, because he is the one that is creating these plans for you. And if you're trying to take charge of your own life, and when you're trying to create your own plan, then what's the point? What's God's role in your life? What's the point of him being there if you're just going to try to take over anyway? Let him be your peace.
Yeah, I like that it's a choice. So with that, choosing to have peace with God and choosing to have peace with yourself is inevitably going to cause disruption with other people. Too many times we get caught up with what a lot of people call lukewarm Christianity or wishy-washy, where we work so hard on the peace with others part that we're not doing our part with God. Mm-hmm. And when you were saying about all this peace stuff and having peace with God and peace with that, I'm thinking to myself, if you have true peace with God, you probably don't have peace with others, because a lot of the people who you're going to interact with are people of the world. They're not yet Christians. Yeah. Whereas if you have that peace that, oh, hey, to each their own, or whatever makes you happy, if you have that peace, that faux peace with others, you probably don't have peace with God. I don't think they can go, that kind of peace in context can go hand in hand.
Sure. And I guess when we're also on the idea of like having peace with God, not having peace with him. A lot of the times when there is tension somewhere, who does the blame go to a lot of the times? People look to God and be like, what are you doing here? There are so many people here that are idolizing celebrities, politics, questioning God, questioning their faith, and idolizing social media influencers when those things will fail you. And so when they do fail you, people end up looking at God being like, what are you doing? When really, you should be checking your heart, because God is the same. He's eternal. He hasn't done anything. He's the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. The things that are failing you are of this world. And when you look back at 2020, a lot of people can blame God for that. But honestly, just as God is real, Satan is real too. And Satan is not everlasting. Satan is not going to save you from trials and tribulations. He's going to give it to you. So who are you going to look to get rid of those trials and tribulations and find that peace? Check your heart, because the Lord is eternal. He is the one that is he is not supposed to. He is the one that will take those trials and tribulations away. And so when you are focusing on the world and the things of the world, you're going to be like, this sucks. You want to know why? Because they are failing you, not the Lord.
And that's what we've been saying this entire series, is that focus. You keep saying focus, and I love that. Staying focused on the kingdom, on seeking his righteousness and seeking just God's ultimate will is going to give you that internal, spiritual, just deeper than the bones peace.
Exactly.
And everything that you just said just reminded me of, we just got out of the Advent season and we're going to be approaching Easter season. Crazy, in a couple of months.
Yeah.
Is it March or April this year?
I don't remember.
I don't know. Anyway, that God's already won.
Yes.
He's already won. So you can be going through just the worst times. 2020 can be the worst year. You can be just overwhelmed with the evil that the world's going to bring and disappoint you with. But God's already won. And that all reminds me of Romans 8:28, where everything's going to work together for good. God is going to redeem the situation that you're going through. When you're walking through these doors and taking these leaps of faith and approaching these opportunities, when you face that persecution, when you have to persist, you're facing the challenges and trials, God's already won, and he's going to redeem all of those things for his kingdom, for good, as long as that's what your focus is.
Exactly.
That's all you have to do. It's not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy.
So to kind of summarize everything that we've learned in this past January, we want to remind you to stay consistent in your prayers as these opportunities approach, and to persevere when the world's challenges are getting at you, and to be persistent when our Father is disciplining you through these struggles. And lastly, we want to make sure that you let Jesus take that wheel and have peace, because he's got you.
So we really hope that this message and this series has been a blessing to you. I know it's been a blessing to us. I've grown so much spiritually. I feel more accountable with my spiritual disciplines, with praying and Bible reading. And, I just want to encourage you to take those leaps of faith. You're going to face persecution, and you're going to have to persist, and you're going to have to run these races, but it's all for such a great cause. I mean, the kingdom is here. It's now.
And you're not doing it alone.
And you're not doing it alone. And that's the coolest part, is God's given us these brothers and sisters in Christ to take this journey with. And we just want to encourage you to take those leaps and tell us if you're going through a door right now, or if you think one could be there, or one could be closing, and we can see what we have to offer you if you haven't gotten anything already.
We want to remind you that we do have a study guide below that we've worked hard on for you to follow along with us if you desire. Do it again, share it with your friends. We also want to remind you to like and subscribe to our channel, as well as sharing it with others, because we want to make sure that we share Jesus Christ with as many people as we can.
Amen to that. So we hope you have a great week. We'll be starting a new series next week. More details to come.
Bye.
Bye.